Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Deal or Bust, where software founders come to try and sell their companies. We're live every week at 1 p.m. Central. If you're watching the replay, make sure you don't miss next week's episode. Go to nathanlatka.com/next week right now. You just saw a preview of the P&L from our founder today. This is a tool I would love to buy. I'm kind of jealous here, but we're going to see what happens. We've got 3 buyers, 2 experts, a great founder. He's building something in a very hot space. Again, another episode of Deal or Bust. Welcome, everyone. If you're just joining us, here's what you missed last week. You saw Slack tool KarmaBot and founder Stas come on. Great growth, very low churn, doing 16, 17 grand a month in revenue. You can see Jason Lemkin giving him feedback live here on the show. You can see Andrew Warner from MixerG in the right live chat, just like you guys are. So Alexander Veit, I see you. Alexander said, this is my first time here. Will it hurt? Alexander, this is going to be so painful for you. You have no idea. You have no idea. Just watch. All right, I see Uyai joining as well. Guys, if you're just joining, let me know in the comments where you're joining from, just to make sure our tech is good to go. Just say where you're joining from in the world, and if this is your first time or if you've watched many episodes. And I'll say hi to you guys real quick. I see Rob here from Seahawk. I don't know what Seahawk is, but maybe you're a Seahawks fan and you're from Seattle, in which case you should leave immediately because I'm a Washington football team fan. That's the new brand. Washington football team. What is going on? Washington football team. All right, we see Richard here from New Jersey. Will from Hong Kong. Cameron joining from Earth. That's good. It would not be good if you were joining from somewhere else. Will Cannon, Uplead, Calabasas, California. Giresh joining. And guys, this is very cool. See, when you put your comments in here, just like I'm about to do with Dylan, watch this. Boom. I can make you show up live. So Dylan from London. So if you're watching live, leave comments. Again, you're watching. If you're just watching, you're watching Deal or Bust. Last week, you saw Stas come on, and here's what people said about the show. Clifton saying, really enjoyed this. Watch the previous 2 episodes immediately. It's like Shark Tank, but raw and for SaaS. Ebenezer saying, great show. This could be the next Shark Tank. And Brian saying, entrepreneurs and founders, this is a must watch. Jamie from Ireland, hello. Lee, good to see you as well. Guys, we've got great experts joining today. We've got David Peterson, you'll hear from here in a bit, joining from Airtable. He currently leads partnerships there. He worked earlier in seed stage venture at Founder Collective, then bootstrapped a company and got a small exit to 100K in revenue before writing, all without writing a line of code. And so that's an interesting tactic. No code's very hot right now. We'll hear from him in a bit. Also, Amelia Chagas, a total killer, smart lady. Can't wait to have her on. Launched Content Tools, then acquired Growth Hackers from Sean Ellis, and now is running it all under Growth Hackers, north of $1 million run rate, 700 customers. We'll hear from her in a second. We also have a great group of buyers today. We're going to talk to Tim in a second. We're going to talk to Ryan in a second. And one of the things about Tim that you should know, Tim Schumacher with SaaS Group, he's acquired 4 companies. One of the recent ones is called Sniply. And I want to give it a shout out here to Hello Exit. You can see here when this company sold, I'm going to remove this so you guys can read, but Tim, this was his last acquisition that he just did. Not just did, but back in January 2020. He bought Michael Cheng's company called Sniply in a multi-million-dollar deal. You can see here, he said, given the phenomenal growth we saw at his new company, we decided to begin exploring offers for Sniply, accepted a multi-million-dollar offer from Tim, who again is one of our buyers today. And Tim is also the founder of AdBlock Plus. This was all facilitated by my friend Dustin, who runs Hello Exit. Help Dustin or help Mike maximize his offer, maximize the outcome. We'll learn from those guys later. But if you are also looking to sell your company, I encourage you to check out some of the tools Hello Exit is building at helloexit.com/tools. We'll also hear from Ryan Kulp, Fork Equity. I love that he's an operator building FOMO.com. And Andrew Gazdecki built a business apps company, did extremely well, sold to private equity, less than 100K raised, hit all the things you can hit on the Inc list. I mean, you Google Inc plus Andrew and it's like boom, 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 boom. Page 1, page 2. You're on like page 6 and you're like, what the hell is going on? This guy's crazy. Unbelievable success and a lot of success. And also Inc Magazine's 30 under 30. We'll hear from them in a second. But guess what? None of this would be possible without you guys and our founder who we're about to meet. So remember, I see you guys in the comments. It's working great. So when you guys engage in the comments, I can put your questions on the screen. Like, check this out. Drew Sheehan, boom. Drew from Orlando, longtime listener, first-time caller. Love that. Shar from San Francisco, good to see you. Lee joining from UK, so good to see all of you guys. If you're also watching on Twitter or on YouTube, make sure you click the like button right now. That helps us do better in the algorithm, which means more people will tune in. But again, none of this works without our founder. And our founder today is a special guy. He is in a hot space. You'll see in a second why this is a space that I would love to buy in. The company is called Stacked Marketer. And so let's bring on the founder, Manu. Manu, welcome to Deal or Bust, man.
Hey, Nathan. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Okay, so give us like the quick overview. If you only have 5 seconds to explain this to someone, what is Stacked Marketer?
It's a daily newsletter where marketers can find their latest news, especially if they're focused very much on the performance aspect of marketing. So a little bit less on brands, much more on performance, getting that return on investment.
And so we're going to look at your revenue numbers, expenses, subscriber growth, some ways you built this list. But the reason when I saw you, I said, I've got to get him on. There are so many people right now buying communities to juice their other businesses. And then they use the community list to facilitate growth of their SaaS business. And I said, again, a lot of people are buying communities. This is great. So you are, just to be clear, your product is only an email. It is an email you put out once a week, right?
Every weekday, so 5 times a week. But yeah, it's a newsletter. So it's a daily newsletter. That's why I was a little bit surprised when you reached out for, because it's called SaaS Deal, but seems interesting.
Well, again, and my buyers who are behind the scenes right now, shake your heads yes or no. Aren't all buyers in SaaS right now looking for quick ways to buy community, to like get ahead, right? Then you don't have to start from scratch, right? It's one of those things you're seeing. I mean, look, Outreach bought Sales Hacker for this reason, right? You're seeing a lot of the biggest B2B brands buy communities. So we're excited to jump in. Guys, anyone familiar with sort of this newsletter model? Jamie, good to see you. Christopher joining from Boston. Manu, people can think about this kind of like an early version of like The Hustle or Morning Brew, correct?
I think so. So it's a similar business model. The way they started, The Hustle, Morning Brew, The Skim are probably the top 3 most popular ones, and they each kind of cater to a different type of young business professional, it seems.
Yep. So talk to us about who you're catering to, because that's what people are buying ultimately. If the buyers make an offer, they're buying your community, right? Who are you catering to?
Yeah, so we're trying to cater to marketers that are probably like small to medium-sized marketers. So not, it's probably easier to say who we don't cater to. Probably that makes it a little bit easier to understand, right?
Do that.
So for example, we're not catering to the CMO of like Pepsi or Nike or anything like that, or agencies who buy billboards, things like that. We're very much focused on digital aspect of things and things that drive performance. So whether it's Facebook media buying, whether it's influencer marketing, whether it's SEO, we usually touch on it and we try to find the best content, and that's who our readers are.
Yep. Great. That's helpful to understand. And guys, if you're watching this and you're going, I want to sell my company, or I want to come on as an expert or be a buyer, go to nathanlatka.com/casting and let me know how you think you can come add value to the show. Manu, let's get into the product here. So this is subscriber growth over time of the list. Walk us through the launch back on May 6th last year?
No, so like the launch was 2 years ago, and the data we see there is essentially like from the last year and a couple of months. It's just the situation with changing email service providers, so they don't track old list size. So I started in end of April, early May, depending on what you count as the launch date, 2018. That was our start date.
All right, very good. Let's start bringing in the buyers here. So the next 5-10 minutes, we're going to meet the buyers. They're going to ask some back and forth questions here. Is there anything, Manu, that you want to hit on? Did we cover the product is clear? Is there anything we missed?
I can just reiterate. So it's a daily email newsletter. It's read by people who are very much focused on performance marketing aspect of things, whether it's affiliate, e-commerce, like direct-to-consumer space, things like that. It's not for people who are, trying to build the next branding agency or be the CMO of, Pepsi, Coke, whatever, or all of these big and usually very, established businesses.
But Manu, one of the things that impressed me, and the reason I wanted to have you on, because I thought this could go very well for you, is because look at these brands that have paid you, right? These brands pay you what? How much do they pay you to get sponsorship in the newsletter?
So right now it's $4,000 for a package of 3 sponsored posts. So that means, around 1.3K per newsletter.
Yep. So if you're watching right now and you're building a point solution to compete with Outbrain or SEMrush or Perform or Monday, right? Any of these spaces, this acquisition here or working with Manu in some way is a great way to jumpstart, because they're already paying, right, to figure out how to get in this newsletter. This is what Manu, walk through this quick before we meet our first buyer. So this is what the ad looks like, right?
Yeah, so the ad is a logo at the very top of the newsletter, right? So having some branding aspect of things. And then the second part of the ad is content that we write for the sponsor, which is around the middle of the newsletter, usually the third section, which can include an image. It's not necessary. And then it's around 200 words that can be, depending on what the sponsor wants, it can be very much tailored to get leads. So very much direct response style, or it can be branding. We mostly do direct response, obviously, because that's kind of, people want to measure the results. So.
Mm-hmm. So Manu, just to be clear, the screen we're seeing right now, this is Digital Advertising Conference basically paying you to sponsor one of the email sends, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Guys, very good. We're about to be our buyers. Those of you just joining, I see Mose in the comments, Mark, a lot of people in the comments. You're watching Deal or Bust, a new YouTube show where founders come to sell their companies live. We get the founder on, we see their financials, their product. We then meet the buyers. We bring in top of the world experts. We go back and forth. And by the end of the show, the buyers are saying, I'd pay X for the company, or they're saying, I'm not interested, and they drop out. And if they make an offer, then the founder pushes back and says, it's not enough, it's too much. They have a live negotiation. We're getting to all that in the next 40 minutes here. But first, in the next 20 seconds, we need to meet our buyers. So let's go ahead and jump in and do that. Our first buyer here I want you guys to meet is Ryan Kulp. Ryan's with Fork Equity. And Ryan, you've bought many companies, but the one I know the best is FOMO.com. Is that the biggest?
I suppose. And it's the one that I talk about the most because I think it's kind of got a brand that matches my persona, as I think you should build your first brand. And the others are more just focused on serving customers. But yeah, I'm excited to look at this. I've been on the show, a few times, and this is the most up my alley for sure.
Yeah, I thought of you instantly when I saw Mono, because I'm going, Ryan at his heart is a hacker. And I was reading your post about how you were doing things back in the day and, the scripts you were writing. I'm like, this is sort of a unique way to do it. Now, have you used newsletters as a channel to grow some of the acquisitions you've done in the past?
So we have a couple course communities now, and the only marketing we do is a once a month newsletter. And every time we send the newsletter, we see all kinds of good opportunities happen. We see partnerships coming inbound. We see guest referrals. We see a lot of affiliate clicks. We see long form reviews every time we send that once a month newsletter. So this is really interesting to me that you have an opportunity to reach out to more people than we have on our newsletter and every single day.
And what's your biggest question? And then we'll have Manu answer that in a bit. But what's your biggest thing you're curious about right now?
How the sales cycle works, because at 1% click-through rate and around $1,300 per newsletter slot, it's around $10 CPC. And I imagine, marketers are trying to always figure out how to budget their, channels appropriately. So I'm curious how you pitch that.
So Manu, be thinking about that. Guys, we want to meet our second buyer here now, Andrew Gazdecki. Andrew, welcome to the show.
What's going on, Nathan? Thanks for having me again. Hey, what's up, Ryan? Big fan of you too, man.
Hey, man.
I love that. So you guys are going to beat the hell out of each other later as you fight for Manu's business. It'll be great. So Andrew, before the show, you're going, I think I know who this company is. I want to guess. Was this who you expected? I don't think it is.
No, it's definitely not.
Yeah. And
hey, I tried doing some research, but no, I got it wrong.
Andrew's one of these buyers where I tease him a little bit because we don't reveal, Manu, that it's you coming on. They're just learning this now. And, Andrew's trying to scrape the web and figure out who the hell this company is.
Were you referring to me that you think we went to the same school or something? I didn't even think it's referring to me.
The Chico State. I got it super wrong, so I'm excited.
I mean, unless you went to school in Romania, then I don't know.
That's why I knew.
Not to my knowledge. But looking forward to learning more about you, the company, and seeing if this makes sense.
And Andrew, what is your biggest question? Same thing like we just did with Ryan. What are you most curious about right now?
Probably just the types of subscribers that you have. Are these marketers at companies? Are these potentially people that want to start their own marketing agency? Is there an opportunity to potentially offer them products? My last company, what we did was literally white label a product, and we resold that to 5,000 plus marketing agencies all over the globe. So I'm wondering if there's an opportunity there, and that would be really interesting to me.
Very good. All right, let's meet our last buyer, Tim Schumacher with SaaS Group. Tim, welcome to Deal or Bust.
Hey there.
Thanks for coming on, man. So give us some quick context. We talked about, obviously, your most recent acquisition was Sniply, but I think you've done one since then.
Yeah, that's correct. We did Scraper API, a scraping tool, and pre-render IO, which is a tool for JavaScript-heavy sites for better SEO.
Yep, and help people understand what kinds of companies you're looking to buy.
So I'm looking for SaaS companies with stable revenues or growing revenues, ideally monthly or annual subscriptions, and anything in the marketing space or in the developer tool space.
So is that a sexy way of you saying you're not interested because this is not a SaaS company, or do you see this as an arbitrage on a distribution channel?
I think it's exactly that. It's an arbitrage on a distribution channel, and for that reason, I am interested because, as you outlined earlier, it's a great way to build businesses, and we run a lot of marketing businesses. So I could imagine finding clients through that.
Very cool. And what is your biggest question right now? What are you most curious about?
So I'd be most curious about the conversion rate on your typical type of advertisers, the people who pay you $1,300. Like, what do they get out of it? Like, are they happy? How happy are they? How many clients do they make? So in essence, would they pay more, or are they kind of at the brink of canceling?
Very good. All right. Those are the big open hooks, guys. This is now time, though, for you to chime in the comments. You guys have seen a little bit about the company. We're about to see some revenue figures. Before that, I show you the revenue figures, though. What's your guys' guess? What's your guess, guys? What do you think Manu did? Let's do 2019 full year revenues. 2019 full year revenues. And Manu, sorry, that was your first real year of revenue, correct?
Yeah, that was the first full year of revenue. We started middle of 2018, basically. Yeah.
Okay, guys, so let's see how smart you are. Who can guess the closest? So LAL, Jonathan Iverson, Ahmed, Cameron Blackwell, guys in the comments, what's your guess? What do you think an email newsletter like this could do in a year? In a year, Stan says, "Love the blue lights." Good. They were a lot of freaking money, so I'm glad you liked them. It's a stupid expense, but whatever. All right, Ben. Here we have a guess. Ben Pat said 120 grand. Manu, don't say if it's right or not. Is he hot or cold?
Should I say if he's hot or cold?
Yeah, say if he's hot or cold.
Warm.
Warm.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, so there's some guesses coming in. Let's not bury the lead, man. So walk us, before the buyers open up and start asking these questions, walk us through your P&L. Everyone can see it on the screen right now. This is 2020 up to historical.
Yeah, so this is basically so far. Well, so the 2020, you can see it says total. So that's a mix because I sent you, okay, this is exactly what we did so far. Then if there is a need to have any sort of what we would predict that we do, we took an approach there as well. So just wanted to make that clear, since on the screen, the total looks quite a bit larger for 2020, which is just half a year. So
let me actually show the one you gave me, Manu, which was actual 2019 data.
Yeah, exactly. So 2019 up to date.
Well, everyone's studying this right now. This is 2019, the full data you gave me. So walk us through this. What are we looking at?
Sure. So in terms of emails sent, we count all the emails that we sent to give an idea of what volume we had overall, right? Because like at the beginning of the year, we had 4,000 subscribers. Towards the end, it was 9,000. So we sent about 1.7 million emails, 43% open rate, and approximately 0.1% unsubscribe rate. Usually a little bit lower, but it's just the rounding there. Then in terms of subscriber growth, I think that's pretty clear. So from approximately 4,000 to 9,000, so more than doubled during the year. And probably the more interesting ones are revenue, 150. That's why I said warm. So there's still like a 30K difference there, but close enough in terms of range. Then operating expenses, then EBIT and the margin. And then probably something more interesting when it comes to long-term when viewing it is average revenue per subscriber per month. And something that I have to explain a bit to make sure. So active user acquisition cost from Facebook ads. So average revenue per subscriber, it's pretty clear. It's approximately how much we make per subscriber a month. So if in 1 month...
And Manu, actually say the numbers in case people can't see the screen. So actually say the numbers as you're describing this.
Yeah, so average revenue per subscriber per month, $180, so $1.87. This is counted per monthly basis. So for example, if in 1 month we had approximately 5,000 subscribers, revenue would be slightly under 10,000. So that's the reverse of it. Then when it comes to user acquisition with Facebook ads, it's the number of active subscribers. And the way we define active is a subscriber that actually opens emails. So when doing user acquisition on paid channels, cold traffic, it's very often the case that you have people who are not so interested, right? Maybe they got hooked with your ad, they subscribe, but then the open rate ends up being totally zero, which happens pretty often with Facebook ads. So obviously we cannot include that in the user, or like we have to include that part in the user acquisition cost and increase the cost compared to what is reported on the front end.
So one of the things that's impressive to me about this, Manu, is the fact that you're essentially generating on a 9,000 list, which some would say small, some would say big. It depends on their experience, but you're essentially generating 180 grand in revenue on a 9,000 person list, which to me is incredible. I mean, there's people that spend money to build a list and make no money off the list. They wait till it's big to sell products. So I just want to make sure that that number is accurate, right? You had a 9,000 person list, was the biggest in 2019. And in 2019, you did about 180 in top line revenue. 150,000 in top line revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to go to buyer questions for the next 5 to 10 minutes. And then I'm going to show that same screenshot, but instead of 2019 data, we're going to show 2020 data year to date, open rate, CPC, all that jazz. Before we do that, though, we got to feel love. You know, Manu, we need the thumbs up. We need the buyers to be happy because then they put more money on the table live on the show. It makes everything better. So if you're loving Deal or Bust, you want to see this, do this again next week. Give us some love. Click the like button right now, wherever you're watching. If we get 50 folks clicking the like button, we'll do this again next week. We listen to you guys. That's how it works. Ryan, let's go over to you now while people are doing that. What's your first question here from Manu now that you've seen some more data?
So I have a bunch of questions, but my main one is, what's the lever that allows this to double or triple in size? Is it getting thousands of more subscribers, or is it selling bigger packages? Is it helping the advertisers get more click-throughs? 1% seems a little bit low. You know, personally, if I did one of my low-touch SaaS products, we wouldn't be able to probably afford $10 CPC based on our lifetime value and all the other SaaS metrics. So I'm kind of curious, like maybe we could talk about it by describing how you've increased the pricing of your advertising packages over time as your list has grown, or if they're not even really in sync at all.
Sure. So when it comes to CPC, I think so the CTR itself, I think you have the low end of it. So that's usually the lowest end, and we count it based on. I hear some echo. I'm not sure if the live stream hears it as well.
Yeah, Tim, that was your mic. I muted you. If you could put headphones in or something so we don't get feedback, that'd be great. Manu, go ahead.
Cool. Yeah, sorry about that. So so the CTR is on the low end. And just to make clear, because I think for email, I've seen a lot of people compare apples to oranges. So when we say open rate, we mean unique people that open the email. So 43% out of the 9,000 or whatever the number was at that point. And then when we say click-through rate, we always measure click-through rate based on the subscribers. So a lot of people usually say click-through rate and mean click to open rate. So how many people who open, which varies much more, right? You can have 10% open rate and then 100% click-through rate. That doesn't mean it's not as good necessarily. Now, the 1% click-through rate is on the lower end. So that's usually what the lowest people get from our advertisers. Surprisingly, sometimes they're more happy when they get fewer clicks, but high quality. That's what we've noticed. The average is more around 2%, I would say. Some people can get 3 to 4% depending on what they offer, but I would think of the average around 2%. So in the case of last year, let's say end of last year, it would have been like 180 clicks approximately. And that's, again, unique people clicking on the ad itself, not through the whole newsletter.
Ryan, you got a follow up there?
So how has your pricing changed, your packages changed? Mm-hmm. Currently, it's 3 slots, $4,000. I'm curious how you've done that in step with the size of the newsletter. Yeah,
so the pricing has been changed very recently. So we've changed it at the beginning of this quarter from 1,000 exactly, so around a 33% increase. We basically look at how often we can sell those packages and then see, okay, if it's selling, I don't want to say too much, but if it's selling pretty well, we look, okay, we've grown, 33%, 50% in terms of reach, we should try to increase the packages. So as you could imagine, this is not exactly like a SaaS company where the packages are super static, right? That's the minimum. If there are people, like there are companies who buy multiple and get a lower price per email. It kind of depends like that.
Hey guys, I want to jump in. Go ahead, Ryan.
Is it kind of a hustle to get every newsletter filled one newsletter prior? Are you able, do you have sort of like a pipeline of 1 or 2 months worth of bookings established?
So we don't have 2 months. We usually have around 2 weeks. That's the other thing. It definitely means that at this price, we don't have 100% fill rate. So it's more like if we have 100, like if we lower the price, we can have similar revenue, maybe with 100% fill rate. But the question for us is, do we want, twice the work for the same amount of revenue?
Guys, jumping in quick before we go to Andrew's questions, one of my favorite tools, like I've used, and Andrew and Ryan, I'm curious if you guys have done this, but Google AdWords, I hate spending money on because it's hyper competitive. Like you can't get any arbitrage there because it's perfectly competitive. However, I started using this tool. I'm curious if you guys have used this. It's called paved.com. And Manu, have you heard of Paved?
No, haven't heard of it. First time ever.
So they go out and they find dedicated emails like Stacked Marketer. And so here's the Economist listing. Now, you guys aren't going to be able to see this because I'm actually logged into my account here, but you can actually go see what the Economist charges to be in their email. You can see their CPC, you can see their open rate, the click rate, and everything. And so you can go spend $1 million on Paved to find email marketing newsletters. And why what you're building is interesting to me is because you can see here, the Economist can only get away with like a certain CPM, because it's a massive audience, but maybe less targeted. You've got a super targeted audience, which is why you've got some of these folks that you see here on the screen willing to pay, and it's 4K for 3 cents, correct?
Yeah. But that's that's the minimum package. So something that just wanted to make sure, a lot of them bought way before, so it was less percent. Of course, we had a smaller newsletter. And also if they buy, 6 or a year worth of packages, which we had in some cases, we offer them a significant discount as well.
Very good. Andrew, let's go to your questions. And guys, coming up, we're going to hear from 2 experts in this space. We've got David, who runs growth at Airtable, who we're going to learn a lot from, and Amelia, who's done an amazing job building growthhackers.com. We're going to talk to both of them to give the buyers some time to put together, formulate an offer. And then in 10 to 15 minutes, they're going to make offers live if they're interested, and we'll have a nice back and forth discussion. Quick note on my end to tech team, Darwin, work on getting Ryan's audio fixed and the yellow flashing. We'll get Tim back on the show as well. In the meantime, though, Andrew, let's go over to your questions. What questions do you have?
Sweet. Well, first off, Emmanuel, huge congrats on this. This is awesome. I guess my first question is, how much time do you spend on this? Like, if someone was to acquire this, would I be able to operate this as well as you? Or are you the secret sauce? How much time do you spend like a week on this?
Well, so I want to provide some context around it, because I would say I spend just about, a full-time job on it myself, but that's not because it's needed. So when it comes to sending the newsletter, that's pretty much something that can, like writing and sending, it's something that someone else can do already, like someone on the team does it already. What I handle more on this newsletter is things like, coming on this show, for example, but also trying to figure out, okay, what's the best way to grow? And also when it comes to client relationships, so anyone that gets in touch and wants to sponsor, they speak with me first and foremost. So on that side of things, I could be a secret sauce on the sales side, maybe. I cannot say for sure. I think it does help that, some people that we started working with at the beginning knew me beforehand. So then they trusted me that I'm going to do my best that I can for them. And then, reputation improves. We've had, for example, Outbrain recommended Monday to sponsor us. So things like that can happen based on the initial interaction that we have with the sponsor.
Nice. And could you tell me a little bit more about like the user base? Like, is there a group of like entrepreneurs or agencies, people running their own businesses, or are these marketers at like XYZ company and they're looking for a new product? And the reason I ask that is I wonder, is there an opportunity, and this is a long-winded question, so I apologize, but
no problem.
Is there an opportunity for you to like white label a bunch of products, teach people how to like build a digital agency essentially, if that's like part of it?
I think so. So we have a little bit of a mix. We started very much focused on the affiliate space because that's a little bit of my background. So 30% approximately are affiliates. So affiliates that buy that buy ads. I'm not sure if Nathan has a slide with that, because I think I might have sent him as well. It's in the media kit, if you can check it.
I know, I got you, bro. I got you. Give me that.
Look at me taking over the show now, telling you what to do. But anyway.
I love it.
To get specific on that question though,
yeah.
Could you give me like just an overview of like what, like, back of napkin, what percentage you think are agencies,
So I think around 20% to 25% are agencies or freelance marketing consultants approximately. Something like that. 5%. So that's something that I can actually just send it to you, or Nathan can share exact numbers based on our survey. So
Okay, so now I'm really curious. What's the other 75%? Are those people, VP of marketing, CMOs? Are these digital marketers?
Most of our subscribers are to small to medium businesses. So CMOs, as I said at the beginning, I'm not sure if you heard, it wouldn't be the CMO of like Coca-Cola or Pepsi or anything like that.
Gotcha.
But a CMO of a D2C brand, maybe, perhaps.
Gotcha. I think that's it, man.
I'm not sure who. I think you
had
had
right now is like all these different ways to monetize this, but I'll pass it off to Tim or Ryan.
Sure.
Tim, let me loop you back in, see if your audio is working. Do you have any questions here for Manu?
Yeah, thanks for moving back, and sorry for the yellow flickering. It was
no problem.
Viewers. Yeah, I actually got a very basic question, which I love to ask sellers. Is like, why do you sell?
Well, I think that's
what's your personal motivation. I mean.
Well, so the thing is, we get asked. We're not going on a roadshow to try to sell or anything, whether it's for raising money or whether it's to sell. But we always get inquiries like, "Hey, this is a cool business. We might want to partner in some way. We might want to invest. We might want to buy it." So it's generally a situation where I never say no to discuss more things when it comes to, how this would be valued, why it would be valued a certain way, and then taking it from there. So we're bootstrapped. We don't have any, angel funding, VC funding that tells us like we have to grow, we have to, exit at a certain multiple or anything. So it's more like if there's a good opportunity to find the right partner in any way, very much open to it. But if this is the only company that I can build to a certain extent, and I retire from it because someone else can run it, it's also perfectly fine. So there's no, tension to sell.
Good. So if you don't exit, what would be like the 3 top things you would do to grow the business?
In terms of growing the revenue of the business, or in terms of growing the subscriber base?
Users and revenues, anything. Like, what would be the top 3 strategic moves you'd make?
Well, the first one would be certainly to drive more subscribers to the newsletter. So we've noticed that it's pretty clear all the sales that we do are inbound. So everyone who sponsors the newsletter is a reader of the newsletter. So getting more subscribers automatically means getting many more sponsors. So that would be the first thing. Then once we reach a certain point where we see either that the revenue per subscriber for one sponsored placement doesn't increase, so essentially we cannot sell at a higher price the whole sponsorship package, then look into more revenue opportunities. That can be either different types of sponsored placements, smaller, maybe starting a podcast. I don't know about that. And then thirdly, looking into leveraging this community when it comes to whether we want to build educational content, whether we want to build the support systems, whether it's a SaaS, whatever it might be, depending on when we reach that certain critical point, when we have the money, when we have the knowledge, when we have the idea. That's essentially the final bigger step, which can turn this from a newsletter business into a bigger media or like a group of companies that are targeting marketers.
Can I ask about acquisition of the subscribers? So you ended 2019 around 9,000 something. Mm-hmm. Now on the homepage it says 14,000 something. So You've acquired around 5,000 folks in the last 7 months, divided by 30 days. So around 23 subscribers a day are coming in. I really like that you have the archive newsletter, but in the marketing, when we were looking at the P&L, you mentioned Facebook, CAC. I'm curious if the archive is kind of paying off from like an SEO perspective, or if that's driving a lot of leads. I love it from a sponsor perspective. You can let them know, hey, you're going to live in eternity. This isn't going to just be a one-time thing. You're going to get click-throughs and a backlink forever. But I'm curious if it's working.
So the archive itself doesn't drive much when it comes to SEO. It's more something that a few readers, I don't know how many exactly, but just not a significant enough number to actually put it into a database, put it into into our media kit or anything like that. So it's essentially more for readers to go back to past emails if they delete them or something. Some of them put them in an RSS feed, and some sponsors do care about the backlink, like you said. So it's a small add-on, I would say. It's generally the email list itself is the value add. What we've seen can do well in terms of not viral content, but useful content maybe that can pick up some SEO is our own sort of guides and reports. So leveraging the fact that we have 15,000 marketers to create a report or a guide for them that they will share, and then it gets our brand out there in a different way instead of just this is a newsletter, read it.
So buyers, we're going to come back to you guys in a second. Although I want to jump in though. Those of you just joining, you're watching Deal or Bust, where SaaS founders come to sell their companies or at least get a negotiation going live. We're talking to stackedmarketer.com founder Manu, who so far this year, you see year-to-date P&L right over my shoulder, has done 180,000 in top line revenue by selling sponsors into his newsletter. In terms of 2019, he built the list to about 9,000 total in December of 2019, and through that year did a total of $150,000 in revenue. Today, he's grown the subscriber list up to 14,000. We've got 3 buyers, Tim, Ryan, and Andrew, evaluating the company. They're going to get to the point, hopefully, where they can say yes or no in the next 10 minutes. But first, we always like to bring in experts to give their sort of professional opinion on this stuff. So I want to give buyers, I want to give you guys one last piece of data to sort of screenshot, and then we're going to remove you from the stream so you can be just quiet with yourself and analyze for 5 minutes while we talk to the experts and our audiences live here on social media. Manu, the last thing I wanted them to have was the data you sent me on 2020 year to date. So here's the 2020 year to date data.
Something to correct, because you said in the P&L again, it's including predicted. So this is the one that you should look at when it comes to actual revenue, January to July 2020.
Okay, yeah. So correcting myself, 104 grand so far, not what I just said. So walk us through these numbers real quick. Buyers, screenshot this. Then we're going to our 2 experts, David from Growth at Airtable and Amelia from Growth Hackers. Manu, walk through these numbers for us.
Sure. So email sent, as I mentioned before, this time we sent in half a year as much as we sent in 1 year last year. And the open rate improved significantly. So from 43% open rate on average, which is unique openers, to 46%. We've done a few things that help us there. Then unsubscribe rate increased a little bit, and that's mostly because of the promotions that we've did. Those are also the spikes on the graph. If there are more questions on that, we can definitely discuss it more. But essentially, if we do a promotion to cold traffic, not all of it who sign up in a day will be, compatible with the newsletter. They will unsubscribe, and that's perfectly fine.
Manu, you went from 9 grand in subscribers to last year, 9,000 to 15,000 right now. Just tell us real quick what drove that spike.
So that spike was mostly driven by advertising in other newsletters. So we've noticed that people who read one sort of newsletter, if they're in the industry that we cater to, might like to read our newsletter as well. And we've seen what results we can drive for when it comes to people to subscribe to newsletters, lead magnets, and things like that. So because of COVID-19, with the pandemic, there were a lot of good opportunities there when it comes to much cheaper pricing for newsletter advertising. And we essentially switched our budget from potentially doing Facebook ads and trying to scale those to newsletter advertising, and we don't regret it at all.
Yeah. So guys, we're going to let the buyers jump off now. So Darwin, you can remove the buyers from the live stream, and then I will quickly, I'll add in our experts in a second. But Manu, just to reiterate here, you've dropped your active reader acquisition cost from $4 down to $3.50 because you went from spending money on Facebook ads to spending money advertising in other newsletters. So you have better economics there. Now, that being said, your average revenue per subscriber per month also dropped from 178 to 124, but that's to be expected as you have a larger base that you divide the revenue into, right? You have a larger list now, more influence. That being said, profitable, 24.9% EBITDA margin. So I think the buyers will be interested. I will now remove Andrew, Ryan. Guys, you guys take your time. Think about this for like the next couple minutes. And in the meantime, we're going to bring on some experts. Let's start with David. Now, David, you lead growth at Airtable. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Nathan. Great to be here.
You bet. So you've not only built your own company and then sold it, you also have consulted and invested into startups. And again, now running growth at one of the fastest growing B2B SaaS companies and products I love in Airtable. What do you think about Manu's business? What opportunities is he missing?
Yeah, so a few things. First, let me say at Airtable, we've invested in newsletters. Great way to target niche communities. So it immediately resonates. I've probably invested in 100, 150, over the past few years. And we've actually used a competitor to Paved, Nathan, as well. So what's
the competitor?
It's called Thought Leaders. So worth checking out. And Manu, worth checking out.
I think they contacted me and I have the newsletter there. I'm not sure. It might be there.
You definitely check it out if you haven't. It worked really well for us, and we're really focused on building communities too. So this definitely resonates with the way we're thinking about growth. And Manu, I'm blown away by the monetization that you've been able to pull off with this list. mean, the list is not huge, and the numbers that you're able to achieve are pretty incredible. And given the open rate, low unsubscribe rate, it seems like you found a target audience that really is resonating with your content. So all of that seems great. The thing that's coming to mind for me, based off of the questions that the buyers were asking too, is how can you turn the operations of this newsletter into a product itself that somebody else can run, right? Like that isn't your secret sauce, but is something that somebody else could more turnkey go run for you. So I'm thinking about like the kind of the conversation I want to have is in the writing of the newsletter, the growth of the audience, and the selling of the newsletter. What are the different processes? How can we automate those? And I happen to love automating stuff because I love Airtable and no-code tools as well. But that's my angle. So I'm curious, like, let's talk about writing the newsletter. What's that process like, and what can we automate?
Sure. Like for the writing of the newsletter, probably at least link suggestions or sources suggestions can be something partially automated. I'm not sure if 100%, because we take very good care of, putting our knowledge into what sort of content we share. One thing that allows us to put these prices one thing that makes our list engage and then lets us put these prices on the sponsorships is because we carefully look at the type of content that we feature to make sure that it fits. It's kind of like, it didn't start with the strategic idea that this is going to be a hot space. It started, I want to read this sort of newsletter.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, what's the tool? Like, is this in a Google Doc?
It's essentially a Google document and then discussing on Slack. So it's as old school and as simple as it can be. It's more about having the consistency and the overall knowledge about it. Of course, we have a lot of guidelines when it comes to this. So if someone would join now with a little bit of knowledge about marketing, they can probably curate pretty well in like a week or two.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, my first thought is add more structure to that process. And I've actually worked with a few newsletter writers who have basically built automated systems, that use Airtable and Zapier and a bunch of other tools to the point where they kind of click a button and they're able to get things running. So I'd be happy to talk about that later, but we don't need to do that, with the whole audience.
We steal the whole show if we do that.
Yeah, exactly. But that's something where I feel like the buyers see that, and all of a sudden they see a product. It's not just an audience, and that's what's really powerful about newsletters here. Thinking the same thing about audience growth. That feels like another big element. That was half the questions before. What are the processes there? What can we do to automate them?
So I think we haven't figured out exactly what we want to do there. So as you've we've ran Facebook ads last year. We've done some influencer marketing, and I'm not sure if you can call it influencer marketing, but other marketers giving us a shout out to the newsletter in the first year and a half when we started, and Facebook ads. And now we switched again to newsletters. So as you can notice, there's no this is our channel. This is what we've mastered. So this is certainly that's why I said I'm still basically spending all my time on this. This is the one that I want to figure out more. I think the writing can take care of itself with people for now, at least. But the marketing and growth side of things definitely needs a little bit more what are we doing here? How do we figure it out? And then we can know what to automate.
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense. One thing I'd recommend that I've seen work with other newsletters is a referral system. You can you can roll one together pretty easily well. I think the key is, what do you get, from the referral? So with a newsletter, that can be hard. Something we should talk about is revenue expansion. What are the other products that you're offering to your subscribers? And maybe that can be a carrot, for the referral. So I'm not sure if that resonates at all. I'm not fully aware of what all the different products are right now.
Well, this is the only product right now. That's the, let's say, the bad news on that sort of thing. The referral program we have, we started it out about a year ago. It's certainly useful, but at the same time, a lot of our prizes, so again, like a pandemic thing, a lot of our prizes have to be sent. So it was a little bit more difficult to say hey, by the way, if you refer us, you can get this prize, because you kind of couldn't, because we weren't allowed to send things. So that
Manu,
was a little bit...
Just jumping in here real quick, sorry, because I want to get to Amelia quickly. David, you've worked with a bunch of newsletters. Morning Brew tested the heck out of this. The critical thing that is the hardest to get right with the most impact is your level 1 of the referral program. So if someone reads the thing and they refer 3 people that subscribe to Stacked Marketer, what do you give them as an incentive? They send a sticker. I prefer something digital. I send out an Excel file because it's easy to deliver.
Yeah.
What have you seen be the most effective stage 1 level referral program incentive for email newsletters?
Oh man, that's really interesting. What has been most effective? I'm not sure because I haven't run a newsletter myself. So I'm not sure if I haven't seen those internal numbers to know. But I'm trying to think of what I would want. I actually agree with you, Nathan. I think the digital angle is great. And if you think about, I'm a digital marketer. If you could pull together stats from every other digital marketer, do a survey, of everybody in your user base and get some stats on trends, get some stats on how much they're spending, what are their average CPMs on different channels, right? Get some of that insight and then only share that after a referral. I think marketers are going to eat that up. Everybody's competing.
David from Airtable. David, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks guys. Good job, Mari.
All right, and
Thank
David,
you.
if people want to learn more from you, man, where can they find you?
I think Twitter is probably best. You can find me David Peterson. Come hang out.
There you guys go. Give David a round of applause in the comments. David, thanks for coming on, brother. All right, Manu. So guys, quick thing here. If you're just tuning in, you're watching Deal or Bust. We are about 4 minutes away from hearing from the buyers. They're going to make offers. We talked about revenue already this year. Manu did $150,000 last year. He's already done about $104,000 this year, grown the list from 9,000 up to 15,000. This is like an early form of like the Hustle or Morning Brew, sort of a very niche specific B2B SaaS marketing newsletter. The buyers had great questions. They'll come on here in a second. If you guys are loving the show and you want to make sure not to miss next week's episode, make sure you subscribe here on YouTube, nathanlatka.com/YouTube subscribe. If you're not on YouTube already, click subscribe and then make sure you click that little bell icon. That's important. You'll get an alert whenever we go live so that your questions show up in the sidebar and I can turn them on like I'm about to do with Lakshmanan. He said he'll get a deal, but will he get 500K? I think the numbers so far are not favoring the same. So Manu, we will see. Last thing I'll tell you on the giveaway for the Airtable stuff before I go to Amelia at Growth Hackers, one thing you can do, a lot of communities use discounts. Like they'll go get discounts and collect discounts on like marketing tools and then give the discount codes away if they hit that level 1 in the referral program. This is a win-win for you because you can go to your past advertisers, ask them for a discount code, and it's, and then your first one in the referral thing says, if you refer 3 people that subscribe, you'll get 7 discount codes that save you a collective $3,000 from Airtable, Monday, Ahrefs, and whatever other tools you want to mention, who also, by the way, are your sponsors. So you're also driving them more signups.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, let's go to Amelia, Growth Hackers. Amelia, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Nathan. Manu, great job, man. Your open rates there that you show for 2019 and 2020 are incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah, great job, man. And I think going further on that, you do have a pretty engaged list of subscribers. It's not a huge list, but it is an engaged list. We as growth hackers, I think I'm a bit biased to vouch for your business because we also build a great community around our business, and we are a software company. We offer software for marketing teams and also growth teams, but the community is and became our main driver for the business. It is our main organic channel, to be honest. And we do have one newsletter, a weekly one, and on this weekly newsletter, what we see is that we also have a lot of engagement from the community to group letter. One thing that worked for us was to make the subscription pretty easy. So you go to the website, growthhackers.com, you can subscribe for like many, even the chatbot from the chat, and that also helps us increase the list. Maybe that's something you can try. I went to your website and actually it is super easy to subscribe to the newsletter. So no points there, but one that regard to.
Hey guys, I'm gonna, Manu, just because our connection's weak, I'm gonna remove Amelia, and then I'm gonna re-add her here in a second. Amelia, try and reset your internet connection for us while I talk to Manu here. So Manu, what I'm gonna ask Amelia when she comes back on, she just talked about this. She was building a tool called Content Tools, and then went and bought a community. She bought Growth Hackers from Sean Ellis. And what she's essentially saying is the communities that drove the growth. In fact, now her name, like the name of the software, is the community name of growthhackers.com.
It almost went the other way around, right?
Exactly. But that's the power of like what you are building in the form of community. So be curious to get the buyer's feedback on that here in a second. We're going to bring them back on. Let me bring Amelia, though, back on. And Amelia, the question is, you paid a price to acquire Growth Hackers from Sean Ellis. You played a multiple. I don't know if you can or can share that because of NDAs, but how should Manu be thinking about his multiple?
Definitely. It is.
That's a big open hook. All right. That's a big, see, now you guys know we really are live. We lost Amelia completely. Darwin, try and get Amelia back on. No problem. We'll get her featured here back on if you can get her back. Let's go back to the buyers though. We've got about 10 minutes left in the show, which is not enough all the time to figure this stuff out, but we want to bring the buyers back on, starting with Andrew. Andrew, what's your biggest question here for Manu now that you've had time to review the financials?
Yeah, so I'm actually less interested in the financials, and I'm trying to think, how can you grow this like 10 times bigger? And like, you have a newsletter, but to me, it's more of a community. I'm just wondering, like, have you ever thought about, like, how do you make this cool? How do you make it so every, like, marketer on LinkedIn puts, like, stack marketers? I'm not sure if you're familiar with a group called Revenue Collective. Every VP of sales, every CRO puts it on their LinkedIn. It's like $1,000 membership. Have you ever thought about doing something like that, where basically it enables marketers to have some sort of credibility or, connect with other marketers, like bringing these marketers together so they can either find more clients, offer new products? Have you thought of the business like that at all?
Well, thought of it, yes. Though I think we're a little bit, at least my perception right now, is that there's much more we can do purely on the newsletter side of things. So we tried last year, for example, it's not exactly what you mean, but it is a different business model attached to it. A job board for marketers. It didn't really work out, for example. So I think we need a certain critical mass. And then, as you said, to find exactly what's the reputation aspect of things. We can verify marketers or something, but yeah.
Yeah, what's cool about that is you get to add like a badge on LinkedIn, like, hey, I'm a stacked marketer. Other marketers see that, and then you start to become like, it's this cool club. So that's just one piece of feedback. Last question I would have, in terms of your advertisers, is there like one advertiser that just keeps coming back to you? Like, as a strategic, advertiser, the performance with you is like, it's amazing. Like, which one would it be? You don't have to say, maybe it's.
Well, I can say it's two that have been with us for like a year and a half, almost, like essentially since we approached them, started out, and it went okay. One is Outbrain. And then the other one is Volume, which is owned by CodeWise. So Volume is a performance marketing tracker, and they also have a few other services. They also have their own DSP. So they mix all their products into advertising with us. So those two have been for like over a year with us.
All right, Andrew, we're going to bump in and bring Ryan back in, but give us a quick hint here. I mean, is this an offer? Is this a deal? Is this a company you want to get interested or you want to, get involved with, or no?
I think Ryan and Tim probably have a little bit more expertise on this, but I think there's a lot of strategic value. So I'm gonna be a maybe for now.
All right, let's bring in Ryan. Ryan, a chance to ask Manu some last questions here before we get to the point where folks are making an offer or bumping out.
Well, first I wanted to try to just share an idea so that I can add some value today, no matter what happens. People are talking about the community. To me, unless people are talking, it's not a community yet. There's not a platform to go to. It's not like Growth Hackers. I've been using Growth Hackers for years. There's not really a forum. People aren't necessarily replying back to you and like starting up a lot of conversations. But one way you could consider doing that to complement the archive is to add commenting to the archive. And then when you send the newsletter, add like hot links so that under every article share, I can click that button and it will leave a comment about that article on the archive. So now these 15,000 marketers, even if just a couple hundred of them click through, they're getting to know who are my peers that are subscribed to this newsletter. And that's going to drive more traffic and make that archive valuable. So that could make that more of an asset. So just an idea. That's something I would try, for example, if we acquired this.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes sense.
I guess my question now is back to the financials. So this year, you've grown 20, 30, 40%, depending on which numbers we're looking at from last year, which is great. But 26K EBITDA over 7 months, $3,700 a month. That's pretty sweet if you had said earlier that you're sort of hanging out and just coming on these shows. But you kind of mentioned that this is pretty full time for you. So that's my main concern is figuring out, I'm interested, I guess to be clear, I want to make some kind of offer, but I'm not sure what number on the bottom line to multiply because 3,700 a month EBITDA with you working on it full time isn't really 3,700 a month. I couldn't work on it full time. Nobody on my team could work on it full time. So I'm curious if you really need to be full time and what that would look like, what you think the EBITDA would be if someone took it over and said, I can only spend an hour a week on it.
I think an hour a week is too little at the moment for anyone, to be honest. So there's two things. One, the sending out of the newsletter, that can be done, as I said, essentially without my involvement. So providing that content on a daily basis with similar quality is, I don't want to say completely automated because it's not automated with tools, but it's we have our writers that are great at doing that. On the other side of things, I think where things might struggle is on the growth side of things. And then you do need more than an hour a week to interact with potential sponsors. So that part is a little bit less predictable. It's all inbound, so nothing has to be, you don't have to post things on LinkedIn, on Twitter. It's all readers from the newsletter. So that part wouldn't take much, but probably at least an hour a day, I would say it makes sense to have that set aside. Even without me.
Manu, jumping in real quick, under personnel cost here where you have $7,000 a month, are you paying yourself out of this?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so yeah, Ryan, just to be clear, he has salary expenses built into this already of $7,000 a month.
Got it. Fantastic. Yeah, I was curious is any of that 7,700 per month handling sales, or is all of that?
Yeah, exactly. Content?
Yeah. Okay. So perhaps someone else could be incentivized to do the sales for a similar wage. Okay.
Yeah, I should have brought that on, Manu, and this is important. A lot of founders come on and they say, we have $30,000 a month in EBITDA, but they're not paying themselves anything. So that's why Ryan's asking that question. Well, wait, is it true EBITDA or not? Just to be clear, this is true EBITDA. You have $7,000 a month, $8,000 a month almost budgeted in here for salary expenses to run the business. Quick follow-up before we go to Tim, and then we're going to go and see if offers are going to be made. Let's say you did a deal with someone. Do you want to keep building this? Do you want to stay on? Do you want to keep some equity?
Yeah, absolutely. Whether a deal happens or not, I'm super thrilled to still do this. I think it has a lot of potential. I'm still enjoying doing this probably even more than at the beginning. So more than 2 years ago, after sending an email every single day, obviously it's not just me now, but from the very beginning. So in terms of wanting to work on this more, I would probably prefer to work on it more than to not work on it.
I love it. All right, Tim, last questions here before we get to offer time. What are you thinking?
Well, I like it, and I think it's great that you just clarified the question with the management salary. Kind of following up on Ryan's point, I would doubt that we'd find someone as engaged and as smart as you for $2,800. That seems like kind of what you're paying yourself at the moment under management.
I also have ownership, right? So it's a little bit, I'm more incentivized than the salary.
Yeah, but so following up on the last question of Nathan is if you'd be staying on board, would you continue to be happy with that salary as long as you had some form of equity? Or if I would buy 51% of the business, would you want your salary doubled?
Well, that's something that it always will depend on the details, right? So is it, for example, are you adding capital to it or are you buying my shares out of it, right? That makes a difference, I think. And then it's okay, then if it's the same salary, what sort of other strategic support do I have that my equity increases significantly enough to say okay, so if I work for this for another 3, 4, 5 years, then my equity is worth so much that it's worth continuing on this path. Because thinking about it, if I don't plan on increasing the salary for myself, right? So then if you can make the business grow much faster with your partnership in any way, for me, it's fine to just see my equity increase that much faster. So,
right.
Yeah.
Guys, before we get to offers, again, we're about to get to deal time here. The question, and if you're just tuning in, what you're watching is deal or bust. We've got Manu with Stacked Marketer. He's built a business that last year did $150,000 in sales on a 9,000 targeted list of folks. Now this year, he's grown that to almost 15,000 people on the list. Again, stackedmarketer.com, has done over $100,000 in revenue to date, makes money from sponsors, has $7,800 a month built in for personnel costs. Buyers are kind of circling around. It is that time to get to the point where we're making offers or bumping out. So Tim, let's start with you. So we'll go backwards this time, right? Are you going to make an offer here or are you out?
Yes, I would make an offer. I would make an offer if you are willing to stay on board. This is not a business which runs itself, not a typical SaaS business, which we normally acquire. But I like your enthusiasm. I like the value you provide for marketers. I skimmed through a couple of newsletters while on the show, and I really kind of like the writing, and I think you're getting the right type of people in the door, and I think there's some synergies with a lot of the businesses I have. So, but I would need you to stay on board. So I would put in something like around a 200,000 company value, and then I wouldn't buy all the shares, but I would rather want this to be a partnership and something where we have the majority, but we run this together. I'm a sparings partner, and then I like the community ideas. Kind of make some of that a community, and then build something around that. I think that would be a deal I'd be comfortable making.
Manu?
I see. Yeah, I have a question around that. So, like, what? Essentially, that's usually my typical question. How do you reach that valuation? How do you think of it in terms of, do you think of it as, okay, this is a business that if you put in this money, it will generate you revenue on related businesses? Or do you see that, like, how do you reach that number in your perspective? So
in this case, I would just be as simple taking the projected EBITDA for this year and putting a 4x multiple on this, which is normal for a newsletter like that. It's like there's not a lot of IP, there's not a lot of assets. Yes, it's growing, but it's not a business where you pay a 10x. It's also not a business where you pay a 2x because you think it's going to be collapsing tomorrow. So I think I would just take a 4x, but again, it wouldn't be like a deal which we would make just for milking it, but it would be something where we build something strategically with you.
Could I have a follow-up question, or is there enough time, Nathan?
Manu, dude, this is your show, brother. This is your company.
Okay,
this is like your
it.
getting married moment. We're pregnant. Let's go.
Wait. We just met. We're not getting married.
Yeah.
But so, like, a follow-up question on that, and maybe something other investors can help with as well, is like, what would you think would make it a higher multiple? Not now, but in a year or 2 years, 3 years, I don't know when. Just what would create a higher multiple?
I think a lot of the community ideas, like something where it's not just a newsletter going out every day and content produced by an editorial team with very little EBITDA left. I think it needs to be kind of a machine, and that's when it needs to be some tech in it.
So Manu, Tim's offer, just to repeat, we're actually, after we hear from all three buyers, I'm going to go back to Amelia, since again, she was a buyer of a Community Growth Hackers, and have her evaluate these offers as well before you make a decision. But Tim, and correct this if it's wrong, but I'm going to repeat it back so everyone clearly understands. Manu, Tim's valuing the business at $200,000. He wants you hyper involved after the fact. He's willing to pay something like 100 or 110 grand sort of upfront to you to buy like 55% of the business himself. So you get a little cash out, which is great, pads your bank a little bit. But then the other 100 grand, again, is essentially coming in, you're building the business, you're figuring out how to grow it, you're staying super involved. Tim, that's the offer, 200 grand, 55%-ish?
Yep, well summarized.
All right, Ryan, let's go to you. Where's your head at?
A lot of thoughts. I'm crunching way more numbers than I usually do. So I'm looking at the fill rate. Your fill rate is like 41% because you have 1.3K that you make per newsletter. You can send 260 a year, just the weekdays. But this year you've done 140,000 in 7 months. So you have a potential without any more subscribers, without any new pricing packages, with everything as it currently is, of like $338,000 a year, but you're doing, less than that, right? So that's really interesting to me from a potential investment or partnership perspective, kind of like what Tim was talking about. but specifically so that I could take up the fill rate. So I would want to bring in more technology. I agreed with everything David was saying earlier from Airtable, that it seems there's not as much system as there could be. It's not yet quite a machine. I would build all the tech so that people can click here and pay. They can click and pick their subscription as an advertiser. Everything would just be a little more maybe automated than it is now, right? Than the Google Doc. Nightmare. I'm just imagining a nightmare. No offense. So that's
I think it's okay for us because we're a pretty like nimble team. But yeah, obviously I would prefer the tech as well. Don't get me wrong.
Right. Well, your team has ESP with one another, right? But once that team transfers, the ESP is gone, and so that's what I have to think about. I'm also interested in like a minority stake. I wouldn't need majority stake. I would also be interested in keeping you on. I would be interested in something between $50,000 to $100,000. And that could be like all just buying your shares. It doesn't have to be an investment into the company, taking it off the table. But I would also be interested in investing, kind of like bringing my tech team to like reboot it all. I would want to do a new site. I would want to just kind of tinker with things and make it a little bit more of a product. So I don't know if that's interesting to you, but I know I couldn't run the whole thing and take over the new team.
Ryan, before Manu responds, how much of the company would you want for 50 grand?
If I could get some of the unused inventory, so that's my kind of condition. How much I'd want would be between like 15 and 30%. If I could get a lot of the unused, and the night before, there's no slot tomorrow, plug in one of my products. That's got a lot of value for me at no cost to you. So it's like buying a last minute cruise or last minute flight. So that would dictate.
Manu?
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think that's one of the, the better ways to think about it if there's a partnership, right? There's a lot of, because we don't have right now any sort of supporting businesses that we can promote in the empty slots, but there's a lot of value in there as well, right? So I think it's an interesting perspective. And I think that's what would make a partner good if they have businesses where they could, let's say take some risk off the table or whatever you want to call it with other businesses that appeal to our audience.
All right, Andrew, let's go to you. What are you thinking? You in or out?
Yeah. Hey, Manu, first off, congrats on what you built. This is really interesting and awesome. If I still own business apps, I would be in a heartbeat because, you could take a product and offer this to your community. And I think that could be a great way to grow the business. I'm not sure if you share that view, but I'm going to pass. I have a ton of respect for Ryan and Tim, and I think they could provide much more value than I could. But happy to, cross ideas if you ever want to do that. But I'm going to be out just because the other two guys I think could add a lot more value than me.
All right, Manu, there you have it from Andrew. Andrew, thanks for coming on, man. So we're going to get some feedback real quick before we go back to Ryan and Tim's offers from, do I see?
I'm back, I think I was away for like 30 seconds there when Andrew was talking.
You're good. You're good. No worries. Yeah. So Tim, just to summarize, guys, and those of you just tuning in, you're watching Deal or Bust. Founder Manu has come on with a company called StackedMarketer.com. It is one of these branded newsletters. It's a hot community. It's a hot space right now. He's got two offers. One from Tim at SaaS Group. Tim has said, I value the company at around 200 grand. I want to buy a majority stake, but Manu, I want you hyper involved. So Tim said I'd value it about 200 grand. Ryan, on the other hand, currently is operating a couple companies and he sees value in getting his placement in Manu's unused inventory to grow his other SaaS products and also put some capital to work. So Ryan's offer was somewhere between 15 and 30% of the company for about $50,000. Manu, where's your head at? Which offer do you like better?
So I do have a follow-up question for Tim, if that's all right. So the thing is that I've noticed, because this is not the first time that we've spoken to anyone who, tries to put a number on the value of the company. So if you're doing it based on the EBITDA number, what if we put all the money into growth? That 4 times multiple will end up being 0. So is that the only way that you think about the valuation? And if so, why?
No, it's not a problem if going forward we would invest all that money into growth. I think it's just kind of I'm valuing.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if we would invest it into growth now, we would have 0 EBITDA, and then would you value the company at 0?
It would definitely make it harder for me to value it. I think the good thing is that currently you run your company bootstrapped. You make a living out of that. So it's very predictable on how much it makes and also what the alternative is. And so EBITDA is actually a good way to value it. If you would invest everything into growth, we would have to find a different multiple. It could be a revenue multiple or something like that. But in this case, I think it's a good way to value it.
Okay. Yeah, that was
Ryan,
my
do you
question.
agree on an EBITDA multiple here? I mean, I think a lot of buyers sometimes will pigeonhole founders, where founders going, wait, I could just invest in growth and grow it. But if I want to optimize for a sale, then I have to start optimizing for EBITDA if it's an EBITDA multiple. So what should Manu think about this?
My thought about it is newsletters are getting so hot right now, like you said. And the way I think about, for example, a SaaS product, I don't ship any SaaS product without hiring a designer first. A few years ago, I would have just added Bootstrap, right? Because it doesn't matter, it just needs to work. Now working is like, of course it works. Products is the easy part. Now you need way more stuff. So I think with the newsletters, there's a similar thing happening. It's like no longer is it cool to just have a tool, send the email. You have all these other things you have to kind of take care of to be, I guess, taken seriously. So I would kind of look at the fill rate, like focusing on increasing the fill rate, focus on adding more systems. I would do all that stuff before trying to go from 15,000 to 30,000 subscribers, or before trying to increase the pricing. I would try to increase the click-through rate from 1% to 3%. I would kind of try to optimize first, and that wouldn't necessarily impact the revenue the same way that perhaps another strategy would, like, investing all into growth. And then, like you said, EBITDA goes down and what's really the growth? I wouldn't do any of that. I would kind of be all technology and systems and operations. The current growth, 30 new subscribers a day, the current pricing all seems fine to me. And I imagine that since you already have a team, we can just use the existing team as well to just maybe work on higher leverage things. If they're currently spending 3 hours finding the best content, but the content's good enough for 2 hours of research, and they spent that extra 1 hour doing something else, I think we could just improve the fundamentals first. So I think it's a pretty different strategy than what maybe Tim would want to do, not necessarily better.
All right,
yeah,
guys.
it's two very different perspectives, right? That's interesting to hear.
Manu, before you make a decision, I want to re-engage Merwin, Ram, Code Geek, Dominic. You guys in the comments. One of you said, "Hey, can we make an offer in the comments?" Anything is game. I mean, this is a live show. In the era of COVID, where we're all locked down, anything can happen. It's a new format we're testing. So yeah, if you're interested, put your stuff in the comments. But I'm also curious, those of you that are just watching here to learn, which offer do you think Manu should take more seriously and maybe engage with, Ryan or Tim? You've heard Tim's offer. It's a $200,000 valuation. He wants 55-ish% of the company. Both of them want Manu involved heavily, no matter what. Ryan is saying, listen, I'll give you less money for less percent of the company, but I see value in the unused inventory. What do you guys think? And yes, Robert, again, he's saying, Nathan, can we make offers from the comments? You're welcome to make offers from the comments. So Manu, with that, you have two offers. Are you clear on the offers? Do you understand what both Tim and Ryan are asking?
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear.
Okay, it's time to make a decision. Do you want to go with Tim's offer or Ryan's?
Well, there's always going to be more details to discuss, of course, but I think Ryan's approach overall is much more interesting and more in line with how I would continue to, work on the newsletter, even if it would be no deal at all. So that's definitely something interesting to look into more.
So just to be clear, you like Ryan's model of taking between 15 and 30% of the business. He's going to buy it essentially for $50,000. He sees value in your unused inventory. You stay on it. You have a new partner in Ryan. He brings on his tech team to sort of get it going and boost, the design, the flows, the commenting, and the threads. You like that model more.
Yeah, a lot of details, as Ryan puts, but the initial idea and everything seems like a very reasonable approach to me. Something that I see also, I see value more than just the money in it. I think that's like the important aspect there.
Yep. Tim, thanks for coming on. You have a bunch of acquisitions already under your belt. You got to now integrate Scraping Bee and get that thing going. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, well, of course, and congratulations to Ryan and Emmanuel. And Emmanuel, if you have some unused slots, I'll buy them for $100 before Ryan gets them.
Yeah, we won't sell them for 100.
I love that, Ryan. Thanks for coming on, Tim. All right, Ryan, Manu. So look, this is great. Look, next steps again. This is sort of, Shark Tank. They shake on a deal and you're like, well, what the hell happens next? This show is an experiment. So you guys sort of have an offer. It takes a lot more detail. I'll connect you after the show via email so you can talk through more detail. And then I want you guys to come back on a future episode. We're going to do recaps on all these to see what happens live. So Ryan, thanks for coming on. Congrats on getting a deal done.
Cheers. Yeah, thanks for having us. Nice to meet you, Manny.
All right, now Manu, it's just you and me, man. Is your head spinning? What are you thinking?
Not spitting. So it's pretty much in line with. So I basically am saying I'm not surprised. So I think that kind of solves a lot of questions. Head spinning or not. Not surprised. It's pretty much. If you think about the whole situation as a decision tree, I've probably been through all of these trees that we had here, like the 3 approaches. So, yeah.
Very good. Manu, I appreciate you coming on. Again, you guys just watched Deal or Bust. Manu came on with stackedmarketer.com, built a great email tool, email newsletter, niche play, got an offer from Ryan for essentially 50 grand for between 15 and 30% of the company. Manu likes the offer, so they're going to see what can happen. They're going to see if they make it happen. Manu, thanks for coming on the show and congratulations.
Thanks as well for having me.
All right, guys, again, you just got done watching Deal or Bust. Make sure you don't miss next episode at nathanlatka.com/next week. And I'll end with a big question. There's a new thing happening, founderpath.com. Why are SaaS founders taking money from this site? You tell me. And remember, tune in next week at nathanlatka.com/next week to see the next episode of Deal or Bust. The company is an e-commerce tool. It's a SaaS tool that does pricing. It watches pricing of products. It's a big Amazon play. They're doing $155,000 in monthly revenue. You won't want to miss it. nathanlatka.com/next week. And make sure you subscribe here on YouTube as well, as a great way to make sure you don't miss out on that. Let me wrap up, guys. Again, this is our 5th or 6th episode. Dominic, Will, Cannon, Calvin, I appreciate you guys in the comment. What'd you guys think? 0 to 10, 10 being, I freaking love this. This is better than cable. This is great. You guys enjoying this? Did you enjoy the show? Should we do more of it? Again, if you guys like the show, you give me a lot of leverage by sharing it on Twitter. Retweet the tweets that you see going out, the Periscope tweet that we put out. The more people that see the episode, the more likely we are to be able to recruit additional great buyers like you saw today, and additional great sellers like you saw in Manu. I appreciate you guys all joining today. And again, thanks for all this great feedback from you guys in the comments. My name is Nathan Latka. This was a successful episode of Deal or Bust. I will see you next Thursday at 1 p.m. Central. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.